is David Holloway, founder of Hunting Greatness, and I want to welcome you to a very special interview we're doing with actress Nikki SooHoo. She's going to be sharing some secrets, wisdom, how she breaks down her art, and a little bit on her story. But first I want to thank you for taking the time out to listen to this, and I hope you find it valuable.
I'm here with Nikki SooHoo on the red carpet. Please tell me what...
So it really exercises my acting ability, and I like that.
Don't haggle, Spencer. It's tacky. 50 for first-timers, repeat customers get a discount.
You must be Lena.
Yeah. Who are you?
I'm Sky's friend, Christina. Yeah, we're on the squad together.
You're a cheerleader.
You know me.
Yeah, that's what I'm worried about.
All right, come on, wait, you got this.
All right, we're here with Nikki SooHoo, and we're gonna jump right into the interview. Hunting Greatness, the first female.
Woohoo! That's exciting.
Yes. So Nikki, tell us a little bit about your story, start to finish, of being in Hollywood, that being the end, in the beginning where you had the dream of having it. When I started, I talk about having a vision. I always wanted to be here, and I had a vision of it, and that kind of helped me get to it because it was so real. So in the beginning, what are kind of the dreams, and what age were you?
You know, actually me getting into this industry, it was a lot more coincidental than I think it was planned. Because I started as a kid, so that when I was little, I had no idea really what I wanted to do. I was like, I'll be a marine biologist, or I'll be a teacher, or I could have been anything.
When I saw a movie Free Willy, I wanted to be a marine biologist.
When I was in, I think it was 7th grade, we went to Catalina Island, and that was like a trip that we did with our school.
Yeah.
And I was like, ooh, I'm gonna do this as a career. I mean, when I was in 4th grade, I wanted to be a 4th grade teacher, so that's, I had no idea.
Yeah.
But I always loved the arts, and I had grown up, dancing from the time I was 2. And
What kind of dance?
all different kinds, like ballet, tap, modern, hip hop, jazz, lyrical.
Cool.
I did like competitive dancing, and I loved that. It's definitely the thing that fuels me, I think. Like if I have a bad day, a lot of times I'll just go to the gym and dance by myself.
Yeah, the best stress relief for me is the gym.
Yeah, I agree. Me too.
So competitive dance, would you say you're a competitor? Do you like competition?
I think I was actually more competitive when I was a kid, and then the older I got, the less competitive I got.
Yeah.
And the more into community I was.
Yeah.
So when I danced as I got older, it was because I loved the community that was built off of it. When I went to college, so I went to an arts high school, and I went for dance. And at that time, I was still competing, so I was still kind of in the competition
Here in
phase.
LA?
It was actually in Orange County, at the Orange County High School of the Arts.
Yeah.
And I enjoyed that a lot. I think it was a really good prep for life. It was one of those things where it's like, should I go to my home school and play basketball, or should I go to this art school and dance? I'm like, I'm 5'2", I should probably be a dancer. So I chose to go to the art school, and I had a great time there. And when I was a sophomore in high school is when I actually started acting. And it was kind of something that fell into my lap. Like I was walking at the Grove, and someone's like, hey, you should try this acting thing. Like,
really?
I think you should do it.
Did they, was it pretty random, or
It was pretty random. Like, I had no idea who those people were. They just came up. They recruited me to go into this acting class.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, I'll try it. At that time in my life, I had, tried anything. I was like, I played basketball, I did tennis, I did soccer, I did baseball, I tried everything. I tried piano, golf, and I just did whatever. And so I was like, I'll take an acting class, sure. And I ended up really enjoying, all the fun games that we were playing. And the guy who was the acting coach happened to be a manager.
Oh, wow.
And he said, I want to manage you. And I was like, all right.
And what age were you then?
I was 15.
15.
Yeah, and so I got really lucky, and was kind of presented with this wonderful mentor who was an acting coach and a manager, and he taught me all about the business. And I got my agent through him, and ended up getting jobs. and falling in love with an art that I really didn't think about before.
Yeah.
Through high school, I ended up shooting Stick It, the gymnastics film with Jeff Bridges, and that was an amazing experience for me. You know, it took me to a whole different level, especially because at that time there weren't too many Asian actors that were my age, that were women, or girls at the time, and so I was one of the few, and it was like, okay, well, oh, she did that, now she can do this, and now she can do that, and so I was presented with a lot of great opportunities.
Yeah.
So in essence, I wasn't necessarily hunting for that at the time. It kind of just found me. So then I went to college, and I was still acting at the same time. I got to make Bring It On, Fight to the Finish, and I also got to make The Lovely Bones while I was in college. And
how did that work with school and shooting?
I've always been pretty good at balancing. Like, high school was probably harder to balance than college was, because my high school, we went to school from 8:30 to 5.
Yeah, it's a lot more structured.
And then from there I went to dance, and then I also acted. So, but in college you get to make your own schedule. You can work with the teachers.
True.
So, you know, some of them, I took some of my finals in New Zealand when I went and shot The Lovely Bones. And sometimes I just would take classes that were online instead, you know, or ones that didn't take attendance, and I did pretty well there. But again, I hadn't really gotten to this place. It was almost like this career was finding me, and I had always assumed that I'd grow up and quit acting and get like a 9-to-5 job, and that would be growing up. You know, that's what it meant to grow up. This was just a hobby, and it just happened to be financially supporting me as well.
Right.
And then when I graduated college, I decided, you know, maybe I should put 100% into this and see what will happen if I put literally my entire life and all my energy and effort into this. Because before, I was always focused on school and all my extracurriculars, as well as acting. It was just something that also fell into my life.
Yeah.
But what was going to happen when I put 100% in? And that was actually probably one of the hardest times of my life, because it was an emotional roller coaster. You know, acting is not something where A plus B equals C. And if you work hard, it pays off. It doesn't always. Like, or if paying off is booking a job, then it doesn't always, you know, go together. Like, you can be the best actor and you may not get the job. So many things are out of your control. And so that was actually really tough for me to grasp. That concept that if I worked hard, it wasn't going to fulfill me. And I had this experience actually where I got a job where I was actually a replacement for somebody else. And I was so excited about this job, and somebody else on the network that I was doing the show for, their show ended, and so they took that person and plugged him into my spot. And it was devastating for me. Like, I actually really wanted that, and that was the first time that I realized that I was acting because I loved it, not because it was making me money, and not because it was just falling into my lap. I would have done that show for free. You know, and that's actually started the fuel of the hunt, I think. Because since then, my career, I think that experience was really hard for me emotionally, and it hit my confidence pretty hard, and it put me kind of like at a rock bottom where I was like, I don't know that I can do this anymore. And when you lose your confidence as an actor, people can see it. Every time you walk in the room, they can feel it, they can see it, and you're not right, you know. And so I was having a hard time booking jobs at that time, because I was just so much in my head, and so I just had no faith in myself or in what it was. And so I went through these moments of thinking I, you know, should quit and do something else. And it just always pulled me back. Like, I really couldn't quit. I made an analogy of what I thought acting was. Like I said, acting, what I have come to realize is acting is like my older brother. It's like one of those things where sometimes you just want to kick him in the balls. But at the end of the day, they are a part of you, and you will forever love them, no matter how much they can make you upset, no matter how much they can, make you cry or make you anything that's negative. They're actually more positive than anything, and they teach you and they help you grow, and they've made you the person that you are today.
Right. I like that analogy.
And that's really what it is. Like, I would not be who I am had I not had those experiences and those opportunities that I did through entertainment. Like, it's a huge part of my life.
Right.
And so I'm super grateful because I think it almost did provide that struggle that I think a lot of people have experienced at home or growing up. And I was very fortunate to not have those struggles, but I think growing up in somewhat of a naive bubble of things being so nice kind of made it like there was almost a disconnect between me and reality. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
because there was never a struggle.
Yeah.
Life was so easy. It was like being at Disneyland all the time. And acting was the thing that always pushed me to experience struggle and to work through it because I loved it. And it was one of those things where you'll never give up on it, just like you would never let your brother go. You'll fight till you die for your brother.
Right.
Just like you'll fight, that's how I feel about acting. I came to realize that. I was like, so it probably will never go away. It's one of those things that's just going to be around. I'm related to it now.
Yeah. And that was, what time did you kind of figure that out?
That was pretty much after college. Around like in the couple years after college, because after I took that 1 year off to just do acting, then I was like, oh gosh, this is emotionally really difficult for me. I'm gonna go back to school. Like, maybe it's the structure that I need structure.
Right.
So I got my master's in business, and I came out of that and I was like, oh no, I'm gonna fall right back into that same cycle that I was at before. So do I want this, or do I want a real, like, stable job? What is it that I really want? And the more that I've like studied what makes me happy and how I like living my life, and literally just like what brings joy, to people that I'm able to give, it really is doing what I do. Yeah. So I just decided I'm just going to continue that.
Yeah.
And not live the conventional life that I always thought I was going to grow up and live.
Yeah. That's great. I love it. Let's finish that. So after college, you went through that, had that experience.
Yeah.
Then from that, it changed how you looked at things, and it made you realize that you really do love it and that there is a lot of joy in it. So from that moment to now, take me through that little...
So I think what was hard for me too, especially with acting, was understanding, I felt like there was some type of fulfillment that was missing from just acting. And I think what it really was understanding how me acting was actually really helping the world and how it was helping people. Because a lot of times, in Hollywood, you perceive people as being very self-absorbed, and that is part of being an artist. You have to be really good at what you do, which means you spend a lot of time working on you. Yeah, exactly. And focusing on you, and that always made me feel a little bit strange because I didn't want to be that selfish, But one of the best things that I started to recognize that I was getting from being an actor was being able to connect with people in a way that you wouldn't necessarily think of normally. So I would get to go to schools, like high schools. Most of the movies that I've done or TV shows that I've done appeal to teenagers and tweens and stuff like that. They would maybe recognize me from something that they've seen and automatically would relate with me. And then when I would be there, I realized like whatever I said, they would take to that. They'd be like, they would want to dress like me and talk like me and do what I did. And I realized, man, like that influence and that power can really change. It can really change things. You can really change the world that way. And so when I understood that acting was my vehicle for changing the world, I realized I have to keep doing it. Now that's something I mean, that's my best option at this point. Like, I didn't go to MIT to create some really cool technology that's going to change the world. And, and you know, like, I don't know how to do that. But what I have done and what I do know how to do is make things that, you know, that can relate to kids. And so I've been working on that a lot more, is like trying to work so that I can reach a large audience and a large scope of people who I can then influence their lives. Like, I'm on the board of a nonprofit called Awaken Arts, and we teach art to at-risk youth. And, you know, these are kids who have dropped out of school or have gone to jail, been a part of gangs. They've had a rough life growing up. And they really don't really feel like anyone cares about them. Right. And so they've hardened. You know, they have this really hard shell around them. But when we come in there and, you know, we show them that people care about them, it's amazing, you know, the type of art that they can create and the things. I think, you know, there's so much potential there for those kids. They just have never been shown that they have potential or encouraged to try anything or do anything. They've been told their whole life that they suck and that they're worth nothing. Right. And I've realized that, you know, having this background where they've seen me maybe before has made it a lot easier to connect with them. So they automatically just think like, wow, that girl that was just on my TV is here and she's spending time with me just because she believes in me, because I've told her, you know, and I think it really impacts them, you know, like I think it's really, and because I still talk to some of the kids, you know, after they graduate the program and they're off now, you know, going to college and getting jobs, and
that's great.
It's beautiful, you know, and I think that's the best way that I know how to help right now, and the most accessible to me, you know, like I don't have $1 million that I can just give to charity or whatever, but I can give my time, and I can use my influence as best as I possibly can.
And with the kids too, that you could just see it in their eyes, like it's like you're really here and you're doing it for me, and it makes you feel so good. And then it also makes you feel a little uncomfortable, like I'm just a regular person, I'm not that. But the influence that you could have on their lives, I think, is the big thing that really just makes you feel good, and then it's another drive to be better at the thing that's calling you more and more.
I mean, role model, you know, just seeing that a role model, that someone that they would look up to exists in their presence, helps them understand that it's a reality that they can achieve. Like, you're here, they can be there in a couple of years, you know?
It makes it a lot more real.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I love it. And I think the best way to really influence and tell a story is by being on TV. And if you can do it in story form, which is what acting is, that has such an influence on people. People love stories.
I agree.
I would like to try to get into acting.
I recommend that everybody takes an acting class at least once in their life. I think it really gets you out of your shell, and what's great about it is it's a place where you can literally do and be whatever you want, and nobody can judge you, because that's what you're supposed to be doing. You know, it's like you can act crazy and you can cry and be emotional as a man or whatever. There's no societal like structures of what you need to be and what you can and can't do, because that's one of the most beautiful things in acting, is seeing a man cry, you know, and that's accepted.
Well, so you like that? You like seeing the men cry?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. See, that would be a struggle for me in the beginning, but I'm gonna try. You know, spoiler: I'm gonna try to do acting later on. I'll take the acting class. I'll take that.
Give him a couple tips.
Yeah. I'm gonna go. Nikki, I'm gonna start now. If somebody doesn't know anything about acting, that wants to be an actor, besides, give them some pointers on where to start internally, and then presenting yourself to the world.
Ooh, okay. Most importantly, I think actors have to easily be able to access their emotions, and they have to allow themselves to experience the emotion, which society normally tells you can't. You know, that you're not allowed to be sad, you're not allowed to be mad, you have to be content all the time and very composed.
Right.
So your entire life you're fighting all the actual emotions that you're feeling, but now you need to let them be. And that's hard for people to break down those barriers, because I mean you've literally trained your entire life not to feel them.
Definitely. Yeah.
So there's different acting schools that teach you how to do it in very different ways. Some people work better in big groups, and some people work better in very small groups, because maybe they're more shy and would rather experience finding emotions themselves than with anybody around them. But some people have a really great time going to class and feeding off of other people, because it's very similar. Like if you saw someone cry, you feel empathetic.
Yeah.
Like it's just a natural thing that happens. And instead of stopping yourself from crying, you let yourself cry, because you need to be able to access that later, and you need to build the muscle of calling them quickly, calling up those emotions quickly. So an example of one technique that people use is basically you would take an actual experience that you went through in your earlier part of your life, and you would plug it into into the situation that would make you feel that specific emotion. So let's say in the scene your mom's supposed to die, but your mom is still alive, so you can't use your mom being alive, but you remember when your grandma died, and the feeling that came when your grandma died. So it's like a recall thing. Like you'll try and recall, like even though you're talking about your mom dying, you'll think about your grandma, and it will bring up those emotions, and that helps people sometimes. Another technique, people are really good at using their imagination, and they prefer to not use fake, or not use other scenarios that aren't real.
What do you rather use?
I personally, when I first started, I used the replacement technique a lot. That's not what it's called, but I can't think of it right now. Because I needed to learn how to pull those emotions quickly and to attach them to, like, when I need this feeling, when I feel sad, I can feel, this is what it is like. Now I'm much better at using my actual imagination to provoke feelings. So I completely immerse myself into a character. So, not completely. So there's another technique where you literally do everything that character would do, and you live in that. So there's some great actors who do their work in that way, where they'll wear the clothes of the actor, they'll do the things that the actors or that the character would do. Like if the character normally goes to the store and at 6 o'clock in the morning, buys milk and then comes home and then feeds the cat, if that's part of the script, they would do it. They would experience it so that they know what it is, and then when they do it in on set, they have become that character completely. Right. I don't choose to do that per se, but I like to live in that moment right when it's happening. So I will create a whole entire backstory behind my character. So let's say I get an audition, right? And it gives me a breakdown of the character. They give me the script, like the whole entire movie, and then my specific sides for my audition. What I would do is read the breakdown, understand, okay, this is kind of a synopsis of what my character is like, read the script, and pull out all the information about my character that I could grasp, like from the script, what they gave me, and then fill in the blanks with my own imagination. So if it said when she was 6, she had a traumatizing event that made her always feel alone, they might not have told you what it was, and so I'll create an event in my mind, or sometimes I write it down, of what happened when I was 6 that made me lonely now. And so creating that whole backstory can really help me create the character, because I am now living her. I understand where I've come from, what I do, what I like, how I see the world, and so now I'm just living. I'm just living it instead of having to always replace or do something so that's kind of my technique of how to go about like finding my characters and building them. What's great about what technology has done for us these days, things like Vine and YouTube have given people avenues to put their work out to the world without needing to go through the system.
Right.
Which, I mean, has been great for some people. I have a lot of YouTube friends, and they do really well. You know, they're like millionaires, or they're making a good salary just because they're making their own videos and doing something that they really love to do.
That's great.
And so I recommend that to a lot of people who don't have the resources, because it costs a lot of money to be an actor, you know, getting headshots and going to workshops and going to class and stuff like that. That costs a lot of money, and not everyone has the resources to do that or the time to do that. So I definitely encourage people starting by just starting to be artistic and trying to create their own things and putting them out on these platforms where the world can see them. It's free. You know, it's all under your own discretion, so it's however you want to do it. It's literally you creating the full entire piece of art. It is hard. It's a lot of work. But I really do admire people that are able to put that together. And a lot of people get found that way, you know? I mean, now it's like crowdfunding, not crowdfunding, but like when the crowd likes you, then the industry's like, who are you? I'm sorry. Who, you know? And instead of it being up to their bias and their opinions of what they want and who they see it being, if the majority already thinks that you can be that and do that, they'll take you.
Who are some of your favorites to just watch and study?
Ooh, well, I would love a career like Jennifer Aniston. That I think the way that she took her career was pretty ideal to how I would like my career to go. And same like with character types. Like that's the type of character that I would like to be. It's kind of similar to who I naturally am, but I think that would be good for an Asian American to be perceived in that way instead of it always being a blonde white girl, you know? And without having to do kung fu or being, you know, a manicurist or these very doctor, very stereotypical things, but just to be kind of this lovable girl next door. That's the type of career that I'd like to have.
Which you are.
Thank you. I still get you know, like the casting. It's gonna take a while, I think, for the industry to be ready to go that route. I think it will move there eventually. One of my idols, just in general, of a person who's obviously done really well with his career, but also has used his influence in a way that I would hope to as well, is Will Smith. I love his, and Angelina Jolie. They're both very active in making the world better, using their influence. And I think Will Smith's outlook on life is very powerful, and I you know, have you ever watched that Will's Wisdom video?
I've watched a lot of his stuff,
Yeah, and it's you know, it's very inspiring and motivating, and I like I like that mindset. It's scary to be that, though, you know, to think like I'm just gonna have a plan A and not a plan B, and I'm gonna work till I die.
It's very scary.
Yeah, but that's what makes people great. So kind of, you either choose to be that or you don't. I grew up in a position where I was, you know, somewhat privileged in the sense that I didn't need to choose to be great, and I would be okay being just content with where I was. And, you know, a lot of the people that I like to surround myself with were actually people that have struggled and have made it to where they are now, because I admire them for that. And it was something that, because it didn't naturally come in me, I had to build for myself, you know, to experience like failing or trying hard past the point of, you know, like, because it wasn't like I was ever going to go underwater if I didn't get something or whatnot. But understanding that when you have privilege, you should use that privilege to do something that's positive. You know, a lot of people have privilege and just keep it. You know, they're like, yep, I'm fine, I'm good. You know. You
mentioned a couple names. Are there actors that you study and kind of take little tips from, or?
I mean, you can pretty much do that from all actors,
right.
Good and bad.
But do you have any specific ones that you like?
That I specifically watch?
Yeah, or is it just you watch and then you'll take little pieces from everyone you see?
Yeah, I would say more so. I mean, you know the actors that are great, like the ones obviously that have won Academy Awards. Those are ones that are clearly you should watch them when you're trying to look for what to do. But that's what happens when you go to acting class. Essentially, you know, you may be up there for 5 minutes and then the rest of class you're just watching everybody else, and that's probably one of the best ways to grow, is to just continually watch and see, like, what was it about their performance? Why was it so good in comparison to everyone else in the cast? Or what was it that stuck out? And it can be little things, like you may notice that she might just have this little like tick in her hand like the whole time. Yeah. And she chose to do that, you know, and then to realize that like that thought came into that detail. Then you think, okay, so how would I do that and apply that to my characters? And what is it about them? Like, why does she have the tick? Or what is it that makes her do what she does? Yeah. I think similar in my last industry is that you pick up on such small details. Yeah. And you could take a scene or a picture and just analyze like so many different things that a lot of people wouldn't see. Right. Because when you're really trying to be the best you can, you're going for greatness, so you really just want to improve yourself as much as you can, you really break down and study your craft. Yeah. And every little thing matters. I mean, you talked about a little twitch. That could just be that one little thing that just makes her so much better. And it's not, a lot of times what separates good from great is sometimes not just a big window. Sometimes it's very small things, but there's just little ones stacked up on top of each other that just make it where people just love it instead of just liking it a lot. Right. You know, so that's interesting to hear. And then again, breaking barriers. I love when I see all kinds of minorities that are leading the way or in a role that normally wouldn't be cast in that role. Right. Because there's so much talent. Yeah. Okay, so when I think of Bring It On, I think of a big movie. And what was your favorite part about that movie? That movie specifically? Yeah. Well, one of the best things about that movie, or doing that project, was actually that I took away some really great friends from it, whom are actually still my friends. A lot of times with how the industry is, you know, you do a project and you're best friends with them for that month that you're working together, and then afterwards you really don't ever talk to them again, and it's very common. Yeah. Staying in contact with people it's very unlikely, actually. You may see them again and be like, oh, hey, how's it going? But you really aren't friends with them. Yeah. But from that movie, like, I have some really great friends from that, so I'm very grateful for that. That movie, we trained, I think it was a month. It's either a month or 3 months, but I can't remember. But we trained and we learned all the dances and learned how to stunt, like for cheerleading, before we started shooting. And we only shot for a month. Yeah. So we prepped for a long time and then shot really quickly, because that's where, you know, it costs them a lot of money, is for that shooting part. The most that it really changed my life was just now reaching to a cheerleading audience. Every year I go to the NBC Universal Telemundo cheerleading competition, where basically we like celebrity guest judge, and there's all these cheerleaders who come out, and it's really fun. You should audition, and I was like, I don't even know how to do any theater acting, nor do I understand Shakespeare at all. Right. And then to play your lead girl, that's crazy, especially for my first thing. Like, you wouldn't want to put all that pressure on someone that you don't even know can carry a show. And he's like, no, I really think you should try. He's like, why don't you just come down and we'll work together? Like, you don't, it's not an audition, we'll work together. And so he taught me a little, and then he sent me off to the other director, whom gave me a private lesson, basically for an hour, on how to like read and break down Shakespeare. And then I came back and I auditioned and I ended up getting it. Like they went with me and I was like, wow, this is kind of scary and weird and crazy. I don't know how that happened. Like that was super random. Like it's random that I ended up in your class. It's random that you asked me. And it's random that I actually really got it.
Right.
And so, I mean, that's kind of how it happened. And I'm very grateful for that opportunity because it's opened up my eyes to this beautiful art that I really didn't understand, and I was prejudging, and I would have never stepped foot into a theater, you know. So to have such a good experience has really made me like think this is interesting. But like you're saying, like it's signs like that where you just wonder, like, why are these things placed into my hands? Even when I was a kid, I didn't think I should be. I never expected myself to be an actor. Yet that's literally my life, you know. Anything else that I do is pretty much a side thing. And this has literally taken over my life. As much as I try and leave it, as much as I try and find something stable or something else to do, it always calls me back. And so I've kind of just learned, like, maybe I should just embrace it. You know, and take it and use the power that it's already giving me.
Definitely. To
propel me forward.
You cannot, I always tell people, you cannot ignore the signs. And when you get obvious, like the more obvious they are, it's almost like the more it's trying to hit you in the head almost. Like this, like, look, this is what you're supposed to be doing. And I always love those signs, and I love hearing about other people's, and it's pretty similar, like you weren't expecting it, or something lined up with something else that he knew this person. It was random that I was there, and all of a sudden it's like all these things come together and work. And to me, those signs are just, I mean, it's one of the magical and special parts of life, that those just happen and take you down paths that you were prejudging or you didn't know much about, and look at all the beauty it added to your life. And, you know, gave you that much more of a skill now as a complete, you know, more of a complete actor. Yeah, we're getting, like, flowers.
I think a flower fell on your hair.
So, I don't know, see the signs. I don't know what it is. I don't know what this sign means, but...
It's beauty's around you.
Beauty, big picture. What would you, because my teaching and my #1 message till I'm gone, and that I want to pass down, is teaching people about having a vision of their greatness, of the big picture they see themselves. You know, this is where I want to be, this is what my relationships are going to look like, this is what my health is going to be like.
I have my vision board, it has it all up there.
And one of the things that I try to let people know, it's not just something you close your eyes and see, it's something that's so real and that you can make so real that it's almost like it's pulling you towards it, and then the signs, you pick up on them a lot quicker. So one of the things I would always do, and it's one of my 5 steps, is if your vision is in a certain location, I always tell people to go there, if you can. If you can't, do it online, but if you can physically go to that place and just take in all the sights, sounds, colors, you see the people, and really make that real to you and really see everything, then it becomes just that much more real. There's other steps to it. But the question for you is, do you have, you said you had your vision board, what is kind of the big picture
of what I want? The overall big picture statement, what I came to decide, like, my purpose in life is to bring, I bring hope to people's life, and that's happiness, optimism, positivity, and endless amounts of love.
Oh, I love it.
And I'm gonna do that in whatever way I can, all the time. And so whether that's being a positive spirit that can just brighten somebody's day because they needed that positive energy to feed off of, or it can be going to you know, help out and give my time to people that just need to feel loved. Or if it can't, like, eventually I see myself running a nonprofit. I just know that me jumping into a nonprofit right now is probably not the smartest financial thing to do. It's actually probably better to build, you know, a structure where, or in an influence where I can easily relate to even more people. So sometimes people, like a lot of very successful businessmen will say, you make money now and then give later. And I don't know exactly how I feel about that, but I understand what they're saying. They're like, you know, you can give $1 to 5 people, or you can give $5 million to, you know, like whatever. And I think that they're both good, you know, so I'm going to try and find some way to help people along the way as I build up to create this structure that I can then give back in a very large, influential way.
Yes.
Maybe that means making a production company where I can now make my own art that has social messages, or that can influence, you know, specific issues that I think are happening in society.
Right.
I love working with teens, so more than likely everything's going to revolve around stuff like that.
Yeah. Well, that's great. Your acting career, what do you have a vision of that, or where I want to go with that?
Yeah. So what I really want before I die is to experience being a series regular on a TV show that runs for a while. I think I have gotten the opportunity to make movies, to guest star on TV shows, to make commercials, to be in theater now.
Right.
And I've tried a lot of different things, and I just want to be able to do all of them, you know? So I'm like, okay, if I do a TV show, that would complete everything that that I've wanted to do that I haven't gotten to do yet.
Right.
So I feel like once I do that, I'll feel pretty fulfilled. I'm sure it'll keep going, you know.
Oh yeah, definitely.
I'll just be hunting for something else.
Oh yes, yeah.
But that's my next goal. Like that's what I'm going after now.
Dig it.
We'll see.
Yeah. So, wrapping up, where can people find more Nikki SooHoo? Where's a good place to find you and then to follow you?
So if my website is www.nikkisoohoo.com, spelled NIKKISOOHOO, and that's the same name actually. That's for my Twitter and my Instagram, and on my Facebook too, actually.
And then things to look out for this your coming up project.
Yeah, so right now, starting in July will be the run of my Shakespeare Orange County production of Romeo and Juliet, and that will run until August 1st.
Nice.
And I have a Hulu show that I reoccurred on called Casual, and I don't know when that comes out, but I'm assuming this year.
Yeah.
And I just started working on a Nick Jr. animated TV show.
Oh, great.
So it's for preschoolers, and it's called Shimmer and Shine, and I play a princess, or like my voice. It's a princess.
I've always wanted to do that.
Yeah, it's super fun. Because,
I'm sure it is.
You know, you're just in a booth, and you're like, oh, welcome to, you know, I'm like, oh, I'm pretending to be a princess.
That's great. I look forward. And have you seen your animated character?
I know what my character looks like, but she doesn't actually appear until season 2. So they're only releasing right now season 1 of the show. So I won't get to see it till next year, like actually on TV.
Did they make it and then bring you in, or did they? Okay, so it was already.
Yeah, I auditioned to be that
great.
role.
That's one of my fantasies.
Right. So that's what I'm saying. I'm like, I got to do a voiceover thing. I got to do all these things. Now I just need to do a TV show that it's me, you know?
Yeah, no, I believe. I think you're gonna get there. I'm a supporter. Your project with your friend, did you want to mention anything with that?
Oh yeah. So there's 2 things that I started. One of them is a bracelet company called Tag, and that if you just go to @PassTheTag, you'll see it's kind of this movement about spreading positivity and kindness through the sharing of bracelets. Yeah. But kind of tied into that is this project that I'm working on with my girlfriend, or my friend Rachel. So her and I have a project called Bring the Fun, and
I love that headline.
Well, and we met doing Bring It On. So yeah, she's one of my best friends from that movie, and her and I, we're both into very similar things. We love going to talk to kids or going to talk to people, inspiring them to go after their dreams, or be, especially like be empowered women. That's something that we focus on a lot too. Or great. Empowered women and empowered girls.
Yeah.
But also to live very healthy and fit lives. So her and I do a lot of workout videos, or we will do some motivational talks. We're going to start a podcast thing,
Great.
for people to listen to as well. But most of the stuff that we do right now is revolved around fitness and just being healthy and happy and living a fun lifestyle. I think one of the things that we noticed, her and I, was that people stopped having fun, and they relate fun to being a kid.
Right.
And why do only kids have fun?
Yeah.
Like, you should enjoy your life. You should have a good time and do things that you love, that make you happy.
Absolutely.
And bring that positive energy to every day. And so we're trying to show people that you can have fun still, and that you can bring the fun all the time. Because we just will literally do anything, like break out into dance at a store that we are, and we're like, this is fun, or doing anything that we think is fun and silly. And our website is letsbringthefun.com, and then our handle is bringthefun.
Great interview. I loved having you. Maybe we'll do a sequel in the future after you do your or before you do, or when you're starting your TV show.
Yeah.
So you've got a ton of support here.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, yeah.
No, it was super nice. It was a nice day.
Oh yeah,
outside.
perfect night. It's a wrap. Nikki SooHoo.
Thanks for
Bring
having
the fun.
Keep going out there, hunting your greatness inside and out.
Yes.